think you should.
The Overwatch competitive system isn't terrible, but it's not great either. There are a few changes I think Blizzard could definitely be looking towards to really improve Overwatch, improve competitive, and make the game more well-rounded as a whole. And we're going to talk about these today and discuss why I think these are things Blizzard should definitely consider, because I think they'd all make the game more enjoyable in pretty much every aspect. Let's go over them. Let's start by talking about the way the matchmaking system works right now. It has one job: try to make a game full of players around a similar skill level to you on both sides of the game. And if it can't do that, it'll make it so the averages of skill levels are about the same on each team to make for a fair game. This sounds like a pretty good system, but it has one big inherent flaw. It doesn't take into account what heroes each team plays. I actually mentioned on stream the other day that it feels like more and more Overwatch games are super one-sided and less are close games that you're really fighting to win. Now, this could just be me, but the concept behind it is that sometimes Overwatch will make two teams that could be at perfectly equal skill level. However, one team is given 6 DPS mains, or maybe 6 tank mains or 6 support mains, and the other team is given 2 tanks, 2 supports, and 2 DPS mains, because the game doesn't really know which roles people play. And in the end, even though all the players in the game are roughly at the same skill, the team with the 2-2-2 is most likely gonna win because they just know their hero is better and they're on roles they're comfortable with. Now, you're gonna have to hear me out on this solution, because it's not as good as I think a lot of people like, but I'd like to address it because I think it's the best one out there. A lot of people would like to see a role system implemented. So when you queue for a game, you tell Overwatch what you want to play. I want to play DPS or tank or support. And at the beginning of the game, it tells you what role you were assigned to based on what you went into the game saying. This is how League of Legends does it, and it works really well for them. However, Overwatch is not League of Legends. I think this system has potential, but I'd like to point out the big flaws in it because it isn't as straightforward as some people think it is. Overwatch has a far more dynamic meta than League of Legends. In League, you always have one person in the top lane, one in the mid lane, one in the jungle, and then a carry and a support in the bot lane. If you don't know what any of that means, you don't have to. Just know there's a very set structure for how League of Legends games are played. In Overwatch, Blizzard doesn't want that. That's why we saw the triple tank meta, the quadra tank meta, where you'd run 4 tanks and 2 supports and no DPSs. So the problem with this role system is that Overwatch may find it hard to, categorize how many of each person they want in a game. Should the game try to make a 2-2-2 team on each side, or should the game, adapt with the meta and make it so when tanks are powerful, it shoots for a 3-3 team? Stuff like this is stuff you have to consider, and I honestly don't think Blizzard wants to go through the hassle of making a system that tries to adapt to the meta by making, teams full of tank mains and stuff like that. It's just not practical. So this role system, while it can work, I think it will require some effort and some thinking on Blizzard's part. I think there's definitely potential in it. And honestly, it has the added benefit of making it harder for people to just insta-lock a hero and then not communicate, not switch 1v6 as Genji or Widowmaker or Hanzo. We all know those people. This would cut back on that. So this is something I think Blizzard should look into. Tell me how you think it would work, because honestly, this idea, like I've said, it can work. It's just going to need some tweaking on Blizzard's end to really make it perfect. I think the best way to do it would just try to make it so it makes 2-2-2 comps, 2 DPS, 2 tanks, and 2 supports. And then since players are flexible, maybe one of the DPSs could go a tank if that's the meta at the moment, or if it's triple DPS meta, one of the tanks could go DPS. Stuff like that I think could work. Now let's move on and talk about the next change I think could really help out Overwatch. This one I don't see as many downsides to you as the first one. And this is 2 different competitive modes. And no, I'm not talking regular competitive and capture the flag competitive. That's ridiculous. I mean a solo duo queue competitive where you have to queue as 1 or 2 people and a team competitive, where you have to queue with at least like 3+, preferably a full 6-man team, if not required a full 6-man team. This would help out Overwatch a lot for a few reasons. Let me explain why it's actually a problem right now. If you're queuing as a 6-man team right now, or even 3+, if you have 3 or more people in a group, Overwatch thinks you're a much better group than you might actually be. It'll first try to search for other 6-man teams around your skill rating, but at least at the higher ranks, and I've heard even at the mid ranks, that fails a lot. And when it fails, it then tries to find 6 random players, like solo players or duo players, to go on the enemy team. And given that you have a 6-man team versus a group of people that aren't really coordinated, it's going to have to be evened out by the fact that the random people are going to be a much higher SR than the 6-man team. If you queue as a 6-man at like 3,500 even low masters, I promise you, unless you get another 6-man team, which you won't, the enemy team will have grand masters on it. It's like a 500 SR swing, and no amount of communication can really make up for that much of a mechanical skill difference. Now, they could probably fix this system in the current version of matchmaking, where they'd make it so it's just not weighted as heavily when you're a 6-man team, but that's just something that's very hard to do. You can't really value mechanical skill, which is what solo queue players have, against teamwork, which is what 6-man stacks have. So Blizzard has a very hard time trying to make matches even like that. It's usually going to be one side or the other. Implementing this new system would be great. If you don't have a lot of friends and you're like me, you can play solo duo and not have to worry about going up against any 6-man teams at all. You can just play with other players you know are mechanically adept, and that means they try to work on their mechanics. That's how they want to climb, not with teamwork. I'm not saying they're better, I'm just saying that's what they do. And then you could play with other people like that, and you don't have to worry too much about the 6-man team aspect. And then when you do want to play against teams, you could go into the team mode, and then I think in there, the best way Overwatch could do it is either require you to queue with at least 3 people, or make it so groups are treated like solo queue players. So if someone queues solo in the team mode, first of all, it'll take them a long time to find a game, because it's got to find a group of 5, but it'll also treat that group of 5 and 1 exactly the same as a group of 6, or it'll treat 6 random players the same as a team of 6. That way, teams aren't getting just destroyed by higher ranked players. It would be even. And if you don't want to have to suffer that, you either play solo queue mode or you get a team. And I think both of these changes could really help out the competitive community. I think they'd actually remove a lot of the frustrations associated with competitive, so you can actually focus on getting better at Overwatch and not like, oh, what teammate am I going to get next game? Will next game be fair? Is there going to be a thrower in it? Not that that would fix everything. I don't think it would reduce the amount of throwers, but I do think it'll help with a lot of problems. Tell me what you think down below, and be sure to leave a dislike. Wait. Nah, the script is upside down. Who wrote that there? Be sure to tell me how you felt about the video with a rating down below. Use those thumbs to tell me what you actually thought, and I'll see you guys all later. Have a good one. Lone Hawk out.